So today we'll be discussing class 7 physics, and the topic for today is light. So you know what is light? Light is a form of energy. Light is one of the form of energy, and this is the form of energy which helps us to see things around us. So I can see things around me, whatever is outside you can see in a broad daylight, isn't it? So we see things around us because of light. So what is light? Light is a form of energy which helps us to see things around us. Now, say you enter a very pitch dark room and there is no current, there is no electricity, no light, no sign of light, and you don't even have your cell phone, you don't know where the candle is. So how would you enter the room and what would you do, isn't it? You would be lost because you don't know. You might be hitting on some object, you might be falling down, isn't it? You might be hurting yourself. So you don't know what are the things which are inside the room because there is no light. So because of light we see things around us. Okay. Now how does light travel? Light travels in a straight path. Light travels in a straight path. So, example, when you turn on a torchlight, okay, so you can see the flash of the light. It moves in a straight path. It doesn't go in a zigzag pattern, isn't it? They move in a straight path. Even sometimes you see the rays of the sun, and they are in a straight path, not in a zigzag pattern or in a curved path. They come in a straight path. So light always travels in a straight path. Now, when the light travels, there are many objects around us. We have trees, buildings, tables, chairs, cardboards, isn't it? There are many objects around, even the human beings. So, glasses. So, when the light strikes this object, what happens? Sometimes it passes through the object. And those kind of objects are called transparent objects. You know, isn't it? For example, the glasses. The windows, isn't it? When the light passes through the glasses of the window, they can easily pass through the glass. Those kind of objects are called transparent object. Now, there are objects that are translucent and opaque. The translucent which absorbs some light and reflects some light, and opaque which do not allow the light to pass through it, isn't it? So, when light strikes this kind of objects, what happens? After striking the object, it returns back in the same medium because the object might not allow the light to completely pass through them. Translucent, they allow some of the light to pass through them, but not all. Opaque, they don't allow the light to pass through them, isn't it? So, what happens when the light strikes the subject? They reflect back. That means they bounces back. Okay, they return back in the same medium, and that phenomenon is called reflection of light. Example, when you throw a ball on the wall, when you throw a rubber ball on the wall, what happens? The rubber ball bounces back. Exactly, the light also, when it passes straight and hits an object, okay, what will happen? It will reflect back. If it reflects back, that phenomenon where the light reflects back or bounces back in the same medium is called reflection of light. So what is reflection of light? It is a phenomenon in which the rays of the light after striking an object returns back to the same medium. That is your reflection of light. Okay. Now, there are various terms related to reflection of light, and before we discuss the various terms related to reflection of light, let me tell you there are two kinds of surfaces on which the light falls. Okay, there are two kinds of surfaces. One is smooth and polished surfaces, and the example is mirror. The plain mirror that we see ourselves every day, isn't it? Where we groom ourselves, where we comb your hair, get yourself dressed up, when you see yourself, that is your mirror, a plain mirror. Or the tiles, they are also smooth and polished surfaces. And the other one is rough and irregular surfaces. Example, ground, okay, not pitched ground, okay, so grounds, walls which are not polished. So these are the examples of rough and irregular surfaces. And smooth and polished surfaces, example are mirror. So when light falls on this kind of surfaces, as I told you, they reflect back. But how do they reflect back? Okay, so depending upon the pattern of their reflection, there are two types of reflection. Okay, the types of reflection. So depending upon the surface, there are two types of reflection. The first one is regular reflection, and regular reflection takes place in smooth and polished surface, and the other one is irregular or diffuse reflection, and irregular and diffuse reflection takes place in irregular or rough surfaces. So from the term itself, regular reflection means when the ray of light falls on a smooth surface. Example, when a ray of light, say, falls on a mirror. Okay, when a ray of light falls on a mirror, how does it reflect back? It strikes after striking the smooth surface, it will reflect back. Another ray, after striking this surface, again it will reflect back. Okay, another ray. So this is how a regular reflection takes place. See, the pattern is neat. Okay, so this is how a regular reflection takes place. And regular reflection takes place in smooth surfaces. So when a ray of light falls on a smooth surface, it reflects back in a regular pattern. Now, if the surface is a rough surface, okay, this is an example of rough surface. So when a ray of light falls on a rough surface, it reflects back in random direction. That means it does not follow any pattern, it goes in all directions. So this is how a ray of light falls. Okay, so this is an example. This is the drawing for a regular reflection. The another one is for irregular reflection. Regular reflection takes place in smooth and polished surfaces, whereas irregular reflection takes place in rough or unpolished surfaces. So you have the diagram in the book. Please refer to those diagrams, and I want you to draw it in your copies, okay? And you write on the definitions as well, for regular as well as irregular. Now, as we discussed about the types of reflection, we will be discussing the various terms related to reflection. Okay, some of the important terms related to reflection. So, important terms related to reflection. And before we discuss the important terms related to reflection, let us discuss how the reflection takes place. Now, this is your smooth and polished surface. Okay, a ray of light which falls, a ray of light which comes from a source, say sun, falls on the smooth surface, and let us take this smooth surface to be mirror. Now, a ray of light which falls on the mirror is called incident ray. What is it called? Incident ray. Now after striking, it meets at this point, isn't it? It strikes at this point. The point where the incident ray strikes the mirror is called point of incidence. As it strikes the mirror, it will reflect back. And when it reflects back, this is called reflected ray. The ray which returns back is called reflected ray. And an imaginary line which is drawn between the incident ray and the reflected ray is called normal. Okay, and the angle formed between the incident ray and the normal, this normal, is called angle of incidence, represented by small I, and the angle formed between the reflected ray and the normal is called angle of reflection, represented by small r. So what is incident ray? Incident ray is a ray of light which strikes the mirror or the plane or smooth surface. What is reflected ray? Reflected ray is the light which returns back after striking the surface. What is normal? Normal is the imaginary line drawn between the incident ray and the reflected ray. And the angle formed by the normal and the incident ray is called angle of incidence. And the angle formed between the reflected ray and the normal is called angle of reflection. So angle of incidence is represented by small I, and angle of reflection is represented by small r. Okay, so these are the important terms related to reflection. What are the terms? Incident ray, reflected ray, normal, and the point of incidence. Okay, and angle of incidence and angle of reflection. You need to know what are these terms. You need to learn the definition. So what you have to do in your copy is, first you write the definition of reflection of light from the book. Then you will write down the types of reflection along with the proper diagram. Then you will write down the important terms related to reflection. You will draw this drawing, which is in page number 62, figure 4.2. You will draw this figure and then you will write down the definition that are given in the book. The definition of incident ray, reflected ray, normal, point of incidence, angle of reflection. Okay, so these are your important terms related to reflection. Now, you know there is a law for reflection. That means the law of reflection has, there are certain rules for the law of reflection of light, and those are called laws of reflection. There are two laws of reflection. The first one says the angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. The angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. That means angle I is equal to angle R, always. Okay, so which means this angle and this angle will always be equal. If this is 30 degree, this will also be 30 degree. Okay, so angle I would always be equal to angle R. The second one is the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal all lie in the same plane. What does it mean? What does plane means? Plane means any flat surface. So how does the reflection take place? A ray of light falls here. This is your incident ray. It returns back. This is your reflected ray. Imaginary line that you draw here is normal. An and angle formed here is angle of incidence, angle formed here is angle of reflection. So everything, the incident ray, the reflected, the normal angle of incidence, angle of reflection, they all lie in the same flat surface, on the same flat area. That means they lie on the same plane. So these are the two laws of reflection and they are very important. Okay, these are very important. So please do write down the note of this, the laws of reflection from the book itself. Write down the two laws of reflection. You don't need to draw these diagrams. These are only for your explanation. You simply write down the statements. Okay, and this is much for today. Stay safe and stay happy. Thank you.